Yes, I did.
Beautiful.
What is up? Overtime Sports Show is back. This is episode 5. Greg Gross, Dan O'Brien coming to you live. I'm hyped. I'm feeling good. I hope the rest of you out there are as well. Dan, how are you doing? Are you feeling hyped?
I'm doing hyped. I'm doing awesome. Got a great show coming on for us. And, things are just getting better and better. Episode 5. Here we go.
We do got a great show today. We've got probably, I think it's going to be our best show yet.
I think so.
Let me run it down for everybody. There's a ton of football action that we got to talk about, as always. Plenty of NFL stories going on, college football. We have a guest that's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour, a former MLB scout. It's going to be a treat to talk to him, especially with playoff baseball going on, the World Series just days away. So ton of great action. As always, we want to make this thing interactive. If you guys are not hitting us up on Twitter, on Facebook, if you're not emailing the program, what exactly are you doing? Are you a sports fan? We're doing this once a week. We're doing this on Tuesday evenings. What else is going on right now? I mean, are you cooking dinner, a late dinner? Are you putting the kids to bed? Are you clipping your toenails? Whatever it is, it can wait. Come join us. Come be a part of us. Let's make this thing interactive. We want to hear from you.
Yes, we do.
We want to read your tweets on the air. We want to react to what you have to say. And fair warning, Dan, I know you're with me on this. If we get interaction from listeners, there may be some ridicule out there, right? I mean, you and I have proven we can do this show on our own. So we don't need interaction, but we want the interaction. We want to hear from people, want to hear what you have to say, and we'll make this an interactive thing. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's jump right in. I got some thoughts. I always like to lead out with what we saw last night, the Monday Night Football game. It's always top of mind. It to me was interesting, to say the least. I was really expecting a bounce back game from the Niners, and it's not really what we got. The team, I know, is dealing with some injuries on all sides of the ball. They're missing some key weapons. I know firsthand, Deebo Samuel. I'm a Deebo Samuel owner on my fantasy team, and I'm missing him. Christian McCaffrey was banged up, but something about the Niners just don't look right compared to where they were even just a few weeks ago when they were, I said it here, and that in my opinion, they were the most complete team in the NFL. And I'm not quite off that thought just yet, but I think it's pretty clear that they've kind of come back to reality, so to speak. And we talked about this in a couple different sports, Dan. We talked about last episode, Caleb Williams at USC, and the fact that he might not be set up for the big moments. Maybe he's hasn't reached, his full maturity and his ability to deal with pressure situations. And I kind of think we saw the same, or have been seeing the same, with Brock Purdy as of late. We know that, he's still young and early into his NFL career. And from what I'm seeing, it just doesn't seem like he's poised enough and able to make the big plays under pressure to lead his team to game-winning drives the way that we see more seasoned NFL quarterbacks around the league do it more often and more consistent. That's been the standout for me. I'm kind of curious your thoughts, if you are noticing the same thing, if you think it's something else, or if it's just a fluke, because as we know, any given Sunday, anybody can be beat by anybody. But I personally didn't expect to see the Niners go down to the Vikings yesterday. I know they were on the road, but Vikings still without some of their big weapons. I really thought the Niners were going to get right and kind of mop up the Vikings, and it didn't happen. So, I mean, what do you think? You think it's Purdy or something else?
I think it's a little bit of everything. We were going over when we first started talking about Brock Purdy. We gave him the nickname Brocktoberfest. So still Brocktoberfest last night, and he's got one more game next week. But let's not forget, he was the last pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. So, he came off, he was 10-0 to first 10 regular season games. And I think losing Debo Samuel last night, that is a key asset to their offense, because you got McCaffrey come out of the backfield and the receiver. You also have Kittle come out of the backfield to be a receiver. So you get that third link of Debo, and we all know what Debo can do. As you know, you said you're a fantasy owner. So I think that was a huge mistake or a huge miss for them last night. Plus, Kirk Cousins played out of his mind. 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And Jordan Addison, 7 receptions, 123 for 2 TDs. So I just think that the Vikings wanted it more. They started off, I think they only had 1 win, they 1-4, and now they've won 2 in a row. They're now 3-4. So they were home, and they wanted to prove themselves against, like we've talked about in previous episodes, a top echelon team, and they wanted to prove themselves, which I think they did. They're doing this all, remember, without Justin Jefferson, which is, as we already know, he was a top receiver. So yeah. I believe that this really gives them a lot of clout and a lot of energy going to the rest of the year, because they're saying, look what we can do without Justin Jefferson, and we could beat a top echelon NFC team that we've seen. So, going back to you, I just think that Brock Purdy probably coming back to earth a little bit, and like I said, missing a key wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, it leaves a void, especially a guy like Debo, one of those Swiss Army knives, if you will, a jack of all trades who can kind of do it all. You're missing a big part of your offense, a guy who can, stretch the field. He runs good underneath routes, and we all know what he can do running the ball too. So definitely, yep. I think they're feeling his impact. It's interesting with the Niners now losing back-to-back games. Not only that division, but some of the other divisions around the league are getting a little bit tighter and a little bit more interesting, I think you could say, from where Definitely. We were just a couple of weeks ago. It looked like there were some divisions and some teams out there that were just running away with it. Kansas City is certainly still one of those in their division. They've got a 3-game cushion, and we talked about how they obviously have some games left against their own division, which in all likelihood is probably going to be some more wins for them. But, you look at the AFC East, obviously Miami going down to the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. That division is pretty much as tight as it can get. Just 3 wins separate first from last, and I don't expect the Patriots to be very competitive, yep. But even they got a win this week against, the rival Bills. Jets were on a break, but they're just 2 games out, and big game against the Giants this week. So that division's, up for grabs. AFC North, Baltimore looks amazing, especially with what they did to the Lions, but Pittsburgh's a game behind at 4-2, and Cleveland is a game behind at 4-2. Cleveland is a surprise to me, and I know we got some stuff to talk about with our lock of the week later, our upsets of the week. It didn't go so well for me, but I think that was one of your games, and the
didn't go well for me either, but that's okay. No big deal.
Yeah, we're staying neck and neck with our picks, which I kind of like. I'm not making a fool of myself, and you aren't either. Too. So we're in lockstep. But going back to the Baltimore game, that was one that really stood out to me. I didn't expect them to just absolutely rout the Lions the way they did. It was ugly there for a while. I think at one point 28-0. I saw it. It looked like they were having their way with them. They were just doing whatever they wanted with the ball. And got to be honest, I think I owe an apology to Lamar and the Ravens, just their team in general, because I've not generally given them much credit. Maybe I've really frankly overlooked them. I don't know what it is about them. I think for me, it's Lamar's style. He doesn't, we know he doesn't often get it done in the passing game. He's not necessarily a run first guy, but it's 1A, 1B compared to, whether he tucks the ball and takes off with it, or if he's looking for, Mark Andrews in the end zone or something like that. And I think that style, compared to all the other guys we see just, week in and week out, Mahomes just throwing those 60-yard passes, Tua can do that. Some of those other guys, I think it's an obvious thing that I'm personally overlooking, but I'm not going to make that mistake again, because I was given a lot of respect to the Lions this season. And going back to last season, they've really come up, and I thought that was going to be a competitive game, and it wasn't. And that's all the credit in the world to Lamar, the coaching staff, and everybody else on the Ravens for, I think, quietly shutting up all the other people who were either doubting them or overlooking them, like myself.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get any further, I just want to let you know we got our first live guest ever, my friend Christian James, a Flagler College alumni out of Memphis, Tennessee. So we appreciate you, and hopefully more to come. But just wanted to give you a shout out. I saw you gave us a little message that says yo, so yo back at you. We appreciate you, and hopefully you're enjoying it. But yeah, going off with Ravens. I was right there with you. I misunderstood the Ravens too. But Lamar Jackson, 357 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's nothing to laugh about. And they were up actually 35-0 into the third quarter, and it was actually probably 38-6. It was the final, but they only scored 6 points in the fourth quarter, the Lions. So at one point they were up 38-0, give or take when they scored their points. But the other shocker for me that I had was, I remember a couple of episodes ago I got a lot of heat with my Patriot pick. Remember I told you the Patriots weren't done. They beat the Bills 29-25. That's a huge, huge win. So it just goes to the fact that, like I told you, I don't think Bill Belichick's out of it. I think Bill Belichick can coach his way to a 500 record or close to it. And we saw the other day, they got some more guts in them. They got some more blood in them. So we appreciate it. We appreciate them showing, because I put my head on the line for Bill Belichick. So he's also the third coach with 300 wins. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it was impressive. Bill Cowher on NFL Today, one of those shows. He gave him kudos, and Bill Cowher was a great coach for many, many years. So that was a nice sign of respect, I think, from Cowher to Belichick. Yep. And it's a hell of an accomplishment. He's closing in on Hallis and Shula. I saw something today. There's been a lot of speculation, especially from me. We talked about this on the show as a topic the last couple episodes of whether or not, Hoodman has earned the right to stay on as long as he wants, given all the success he's had, or, if he's on the hot seat, despite all the success he actually has had, all the championships he's brought, all the goodwill. It's a business. And, a guy like Robert Kraft probably has high standards and can only tolerate losing for so long. But I did see, it looks like Hoodman has signed
Luke deal. I heard him. Yeah, Boomer and Gio announced it yesterday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe he's sticking around for a little bit, and maybe they can right the ship.
I think so.
I'm not big believers. We talked about Mac Jones. I don't know if he's the answer at quarterback, the long-term solution for them. They gotta, I think, surround him, with some more players. Ramondre Stevenson looks like the real deal, but other than that, I think the cupboard's kind of bare for New England. So they're gonna have to hit on some draft picks, maybe convince some guys to take some deals and some hometown discounts and try to build around what they have there.
Yeah, exactly. And then going off of last week, a couple other shockers for me was the Jaguars. They're looking pretty good this year. They played on the road against the Saints, 31-24. So they're on a win streak, 5-2. They're leading their division. So that's a pretty good win for the Jaguars. Another one that stuck out for me were the Bears against the Raiders. This rookie Tyson Bagent, he was a Division II quarterback coming out of nowhere to go ahead and beat the Raiders. That was a big, huge, surprise, because, as Justin Fields, he was out. So this kid, Division II rookie, come back and beat him 30-12.
Yeah. We
touched a little bit on the Browns. Browns had the number one defense, and they gave up 38 points, but got the win 39-38. So that was a fun, entertaining game. Giants, that was a woozy, but as you know, win's a win. So a win is a win with the Giants and Commanders. And
beggars can't be choosers. If you're a Giants
beggars cannot be choosers. That's what I'm saying. Wins are win. Yeah, and Steelers too, going on the road to beat the Rams. That's a very impressive win. The Steelers are now 4-2. Looks like they got their stuff going and rolling. Looks like everything's going good with the Steelers. And the Seahawks won 20-10. Cardinals, I think the Cardinals they got lucky with the Cowboys win. They should be defeated 1-6. I don't think that they're any team to be good about. And like you said, we touched on the Chiefs. We touched on the Chiefs all year. They might finally be ringing. I don't know if you remember earlier, but we talked about the Chiefs, and they're actually a really solid squad. So I think we're really good to go.
They are. How about the Bucks? I kind of wanted to break format for just a moment and kind of go over to what was my lock of the week. And the Bucks just, I don't know, they kind of disappointed me, especially being the local team. But we'll come back to that in a moment. As promised, we are joined by somebody who was a professional baseball player for a number of years. He spent time with affiliates of the Baltimore Orioles for the past 2 decades or so. He's been an MLB scout with teams like the Toronto Blue Jays, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the San Diego Padres. And most recently, as of a month ago, he was named special assistant to the scouting and global cross-checker with the Detroit Lions. Chip Lawrence is our guest. Chip, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
Doing awesome. Doing awesome.
Fantastic. Chip, I can't
Detroit Tigers. Detroit Tigers.
That's right. That's right. I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know I speak for Dan when I say it means a lot to us. A couple guys who are just getting started, really doing this for fun. We don't know exactly where it's headed, but you are lending a tremendous amount of credibility to the show, and we can't thank you enough. So really appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Happy to be here. Yeah, feel free to shoot any questions you have towards me.
Real quick before you get started, I got a trivia question for you. Can you name the half of my team?
Go ahead, Daytona Tortugas.
Oh, look at you. That is awesome. All right. Touche, my friend. Stadium. Yes, touche, my friend. Okay. I thought I'd stump you. That's okay. Touche, my friend.
Chip, I got your back, Chip. I told Dan we placed a little bet. I said, Chip's going to get it. He's a guy. He knows it. He's going to get it. You're not getting anything past him, Dan. You're going to have to be more creative next time.
Yeah.
But we got a bunch of questions for you, Chip. So we'll just jump right in. For the people listening out there, people who might not know who you are, I want to get a sense for your journey as a scout and what you've been doing for really, like I said, it seems like the better part of 2 decades now. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started, what the transition was like for you going from a player into the scouting world, how you got started there? Is it something you were interested in? Did anybody kind of push you and recommend you into that? And what's your experience been like as a scout doing it for the better part of 2 decades?
Yeah. Well, first off, I attended college and played baseball in college, and like every other college player, I had aspirations of playing in the big leagues one day. Was not drafted. Was able to sign as a non-drafted free agent after my senior year with the Orioles. They gave me a chance to go out and see how far I could go. So I bounced around the minors for a few years. When I got released, I had a scout by the name of Tim Wilkin, who's a legendary scout in this Tampa Bay area. Everybody in baseball knows him. He reached out to me. I was working as a office manager as in a hospitality business in DC at the time. And he called the office and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing working in there? Don't you want to be a baseball scout?" So I was like, at that time, I had no idea what scouting was about, but I knew I'd be going to baseball games and doing what I love. So I figured, why not? And took him up on his offer, and that's how I started with the Blue Jays covering the Mid-Atlantic region, and that was 1999.
Wow.
That's great.
Very, very
That
cool.
that's amazing. You never know how you're going to get your start, right? It just
Yeah, you
life
never
rolls
know. You
in.
never know who's watching you, who's scouting you.
Yeah. That's amazing. I got another one for you. I'm curious. You've been doing this for a long, long time, and I imagine you've learned a tremendous amount. Job experience, life experience will teach you a lot, but just some of the basics, what you do day in and day out. What do you look for in players when you're scouting them? Do you have a quote unquote system, I guess? Do you have a checklist you bring with you? And do you look at a player's physical abilities, how hard they can throw the ball, how hard they can hit it? Can they hit it directionally? Or do you look more at, for a young player, their character, their mental abilities, those types of intangibles? What do you look for in players?
Yeah, all those are major factors when we go in to scout players. Obviously, the 5 tools are what we are usually there to see. That's what gets our attention off the bat. It's the running speed, the running speed, arm strength, fielding grade, hitting for power, and the ability to hit for average. So they're the 5 major tools in baseball. But then when you start talking about the intangibles, the makeup, the work ethic, the coachability, those are the things that separates the good scouts from the bad scouts. That's the scout's job to get in there and get to know that player. Because once they get in the minor league ball, the majority of the players have the tool side of it. It's that makeup that separates those that make it to the big leagues. They're special when you get to know them and get to see what their daily programs involved.
Yeah, the stuff I imagine that's probably harder to teach. Some of them you either have it or you don't. I think you hit on a question. I'll give the floor to Dan for a second. You mentioned something that I think you wanted to mention 5 tools, but Dan, give him what you got.
So a couple things. Greg was giving me a background. I watched a video of you on MLB Network, and you were talking about getting black players into the league. I guess 2 things that I learned about the Dream Series and the RBI. Yeah, I saw it last year that the top 5 picks were black in the 2022 draft: the Jones, Kumar Rocker, Jameer Johnson, and Elijah. And I guess my question is: do you see a lot of progress in those 2? Leagues, or not leagues, but I guess goals that the leagues are going.
For sure. Over the last few years, MLB has really made an effort to provide more different platforms for kids as a means of exposure. Obviously, cost has become a big factor in this game. It doesn't matter black, white, brown. The cost is getting outrageous in this travel ball industry, and it's a big business.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, that moves a lot of people out of the sport. When we're out here looking for athletes, and you start talking about the numbers of scholarships available at the college level, it's much easier for an athlete to get a full ride on a baseball or football scholarship. That's just a fact.
Definitely.
So when we're battling up against those other sports, you mix in the cost factor for these kids to go out and play in the summer and in the fall. We lose a lot of athletes in this game, unfortunately, and that's part of what MLB is doing now with these youth initiative programs. You mentioned Jackie Robinson. Another organization that is making a big impact is YDF, which stands for the Youth Development Foundation.
Okay.
And they've really created some very key events for getting kids exposure. One of those is the Hank Aaron 44 game, which they bring in 120 kids to Vero Beach, and they perform there for a couple of weeks, and they select 44 of the top players there. They fly them all to Atlanta, and they play a ball game at Truist Park in the Braves Stadium, which is a big deal for these kids, and it gives them a chance to perform on the big stage. And from a scouting side, it's great for us because we get to go to one park and watch a whole bunch of players that are talented, and have aspirations of playing at the next level. So MLB and YDF have really made a huge impact on the amateur side for these kids getting to that next level.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Just, going off of that and talking about this recent draft, I think there's going to be a lot of good players out there. I mean, Paul Skeens, I think Dylan Cruz, I think he's going to be a very good player. What are your thoughts on, the top 10 picks from last year, or if you had any insight? I saw Max Clark was a number 3 pick for the Tigers. I don't know if you were working with them and got to scout him, or if he was, part of your decision to get drafted by the Tigers, because he was a pretty insightful player. I watched a little bit of his film.
Yeah, last year this is my first year with the Tigers. I just formally started this past Monday, actually.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's all right. That's okay. For the last 2 years, I was with the Milwaukee Brewers, pretty much in the same capacity, special assistant to scouting. and did some international work as well. But those names you just mentioned, they're all special talents. And,
Yep.
some guys blossom a little bit later. I mean, Dylan Cruz was a kid from down here in Florida, and we all scouted him, and goes to college. He gets bigger, he gets stronger, and, ends up being a very special bat at the top of the draft. Max Clark's another one. I mean, he's one high school kid, obviously has strength, speed, special talent, and guys like that don't come around often. So I think the Tigers did a good job of grabbing him up at the top of the draft as well.
Yeah, and they've not to bewilder the fact on the Tigers, but over the last few years, they've drafted well. Spencer Torkelson, they got Casey, the pitcher from Auburn, and Riley Green coming up through the system. So they've been doing very well. And I live in St. Augustine, and Greg's over in Sarasota, so I try to go to a lot of Lakeland games for spring training. So that's always a lot of fun. But going on to another question I have, Greg kind of touched on it. I guess going a little bit more elaborate, like describe a five-tool player to you and what it means to you. I guess, kind of you've already touched on it. I just kind of wanted to see your insight just because you see it, on an everyday basis on your job.
Five-tool players are special, and you don't see them every day. That's the special.
Exactly.
That's what makes them so special. Is there might be one or two in every draft. Max Clark was one we just talked about. I mean, he has a chance to be a five-tool player. They don't come around often, true five-tool players, and when you do, they're not hard to scout.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
A person that has very little knowledge of baseball can go out to a high school field and tell that Max Clark's pretty good. So
that's awesome.
when you get those guys and those special guys into your organization and get a chance to develop them and be around them, they're the guys that end up impacting your team at the big league level and hopefully playing in the postseason, like some of these teams are now.
Yeah, like that kid Evan Clark who was playing on the Rangers, 21-year-old. I mean, he's coming out of nowhere and he's having a heck of a postseason. So
yeah, definitely. It takes longer for some guys. Some kids out of high school are able to go out and compete right away. And strength is the last tool out of the five tools. Strength is the last one to be developed, and that's the power tool.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. So some of these kids, they go off to college, they get a bit stronger and a little bit faster, and now you start to see the power. I mean, look at Trey Turner, for instance, this year.
Oh, yeah.
What he's done. I mean, he was a kid out of Florida, didn't have much power coming out, and he went to high school, went to college, NC State, and you started to see the power coming. He signs, and the power keeps coming, and it keeps coming, and now you turn on TV, it's like, wow, this is the same kid that was a little scrawny, fast kid in high school out in Florida, but it comes later for some players.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And I still have more questions, but I don't want to hog it. If Greg, you want to jump some down.
Yeah, I got one I want to ask you, Chip. Anybody we talk to that works in sports in any capacity, for me, I kind of look at these guys in awe because I'm jealous. You guys are doing something that I think a lot of people would love to do, be part of professional organizations. We're sports guys. We geek out on this stuff. So in a lot of ways, I'm sure it's a ton of fun. Hopefully you enjoy it, but I'm curious, what are the tougher aspects of it? I imagine, you're on the road a lot. If it's tough, if the travel ever gets to you. And I'm really curious about, sometimes I imagine you have to break the news to somebody often, the players who just are not going to make it, and I don't know if you're dealing with younger players. So I don't know if there's family in the mix, if you're working with their parents, and you kind of have to break the bad news to them that, hey, I just don't think it's going to happen. You're not going to make it to the bigs. You're not going to get that big contract. What are the tougher aspects that you've had to deal with over your career?
Yeah, as a scout, obviously, being away from home affects the family life for sure. I'm fortunate enough to have a real supportive family, and I have a son that plays baseball. That's a big plus because he's able to come with me sometimes and watch these guys and see their progress and see their development. So that, for me, there's a lot of positives to it, but it definitely can be a wear and tear on your family life because we are gone a lot. I mean, my job capacity, what I'm doing now, I'm probably gone 60 to 70% of the year. And that's just, it's nonstop, especially, living down here in Florida. There's really no off season. These kids play all year round. They train all year round. There's always somewhere to go. If you're going to do this job right and be a good scout, you need to be out and seeing players and getting to know players. So the wear and tear on the family is there. It's real. When you talk about players, who have been signed and maybe didn't, advance all the way to the big leagues, being released it's tough. It's tough to do to a young man because a lot of us have sat in that same chair. We all had those big dreams of playing in the big leagues, and that day comes for everybody sooner or later when you have to hang it up. And unfortunately for most of them, it's sooner.
Yeah.
So breaking that news to them is something that we don't have to do on the scouting side. That's more so, more in the player development area. But as soon as they're released, we sign those kids. And a lot of times we're the first one that they reach out to back to their scout who signed them and say, all right, well, what's my next move? Can you help me get into independent ball? And you see it a lot. A lot of these kids, they'll get released, and some of them will go off to independent ball, maybe pick up another pitch or improve their strength, and you look up and they're back in pro ball now with another affiliate. So just because you're released in the minors does not mean it's the end of the road for you. Everybody's route is different to the MLBs.
Yeah, one door closes, another may open. That exactly. Makes sense. You mentioned it briefly. Your son, I was grateful enough to do an interview on him, a short one a couple of weeks back. He's playing here for a local high school here in Palmetto. Trey seems and sounds like a great young kid with a lot of promise. What's it like seeing him grow up, knowing that he's involved in the game of baseball, and how special it is, the bond that you guys have together? You mentioned being able to travel and take trips together. What does that mean to you, and what do you see for Trey down the road?
It's definitely one of the perks of working in baseball. Ever since he was a little kid, he's been able to go to big league stadiums, go down, watch BP on the field, go in the clubhouse, talk to the managers, and the managers would act like they're letting him make out the lineup. So he's had a lot of great experiences, calling out draft names at the draft, sitting in the draft, watching the whole process. Yeah, so he has a really good understanding of the game and how it works from the the administrative side as well. And he's really progressed over the last couple of years here as a player. So it's been fun to watch his development. I'll go away and come back, and it's like, wow, it's like, I'm bouncing around seeing some of the better guys in the college, in college and high school level, and you come back and you get to watch him. It's like, okay, he's pretty good. He's coming along all right, So It's been fun to watch his progress here. He's committed to University of Missouri and the SEC, which is one of the better college, conferences, and it's a challenge for him. But even with that commitment, it just forces him to go out and work harder and drive him a little bit more. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's a cool, great father-son moment. Congrats to you. That's a proud moment as a father.
Congratulations. That's very impressive.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's I was reading some of the article, not to interrupt real quick. I just wanted to touch on this point. Do you see him as staying at shortstop, or do you think that he'll move around, or what is his ultimate goal, or maybe just try to feel it out, you think?
I think he has the ability to stay at shortstop. We've seen him this summer against some of the better players in the country, and he's holds his own fine. He'll be just fine at shortstop at the next.
Oh, that's
level.
Awesome. No, very cool. I was just curious. I didn't know if.
And actually, the pitching's been coming. Yeah, the pitching's been coming along. But growing up, we've always in our programs with our youth group, we've always stressed the importance of playing multiple positions. So you're liable to go out to a game and watch him in the summer, and he might be at first base, he might be at second, he might be at third. We play our guys all over the place. Actually, this past summer, our PYF Rays, the team was mainly comprised of shortstops and center fielders.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. Yeah.
So when they come together, it's like, hey, you guys got to learn how to play another position.
Yeah,
they need to understand that when you get to that next level, that's how it is. Like when you get to college, the majority of the infielders were shortstops in high school. So the fact that you can go out and play another position just makes you more valuable to your coach.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to touch on. If he goes other positions, there could be, a 5-star or somebody that came in higher, or a senior that starting at shortstop. But if your son is able to multifaceted, kind of what I'm getting at, and
for sure,
I was curious. It was very cool because, not to give you a little background on myself, I actually graduated in sport management from Flagler College. So my ultimate goal was to get to sports, but it's been rough. You kind of got to know somebody.
But now he's here.
Yeah. So, but no, my ultimate goal with it, and baseball is my number one sport. So I always call myself, and Greg will tell you, like an unofficial scout on my end, because I know a lot. Like my team is the Yankees, so I always know my top prospects, and I watch a lot of them. And the Padres, they got this 16-year-old catcher coming out, Ethan Salas. That looks very, very, very cool. So I was watching Volpe. I had a lot of friends. I told a lot of people about Volpe, a lot of people about Dominguez. So I kind of pat myself on the back. But I had a question, and it's kind of a two-part question. Do you see Shohei Ohtani? Do you think that he's an anomaly, or do you think that with going off the question that you just gave me, people playing a lot of positions, do you think that could be sustained, or what do you think? What are your thoughts?
It's hard. It's definitely a wear and tear on your body, just the amount
Yep.
of throwing you have to do as a position player, and then pitching as a starter, not just a reliever, but as a starter every 5 days. It's tough to do at any level.
Yep.
And you see now more at the younger level. Unfortunately, a lot of these kids are forced into one position or the other a little bit too soon, sometimes maybe. But it's definitely fun to watch, without a doubt.
Very much so.
It's fun to watch, and there's an ambidextrous pitcher coming up here that's in college now, and we've
cool.
scouted him in high school, and we're going to be scouting him out of college, and that's fun to watch as well. You just want to see how far can they do this, how long can they do this for,
That's awesome. And then my second part to that, I was doing a little research on Jack Caglione from Florida. I know that he had 31 home runs as a first baseman. He had a 4.78 ERA, and he pitched pretty good. He had a lot of strikeouts. Do you see any future in him kind of doing the same thing this next year? Or I don't know, just your own opinion. I was just curious.
Like I said, he's one of those guys where you could just go to a random game and show up and be like, that guy's good.
That's what I saw too.
He has some special ability. He's fun to watch. You go out there and watch him at University of Florida. Every time he comes to the plate, it's like Babe Ruth is hitting. All the kids run out the right field, hoping to get a home run ball. So
31 bombs is impressive.
Go watch him. He's definitely a fun one to go watch. But it's a special talent.
Very cool. 31 bombs in like 60 games. That's that's like 1.8 per game. If you do like the analytics, which is a big part of the game now.
It is a big part of the game. It's a big part of the game.
Yeah, it kind of leads into my next question, and not the hog again, Greg. Do you use a lot of analytics in your scouting? I mean, I'm sure you do, just with the game going where it is.
Yeah, we do. Every scouting department in pro baseball now, the analytical departments are becoming larger and larger, and it's becoming more beneficial. If you can have a good mixture of actual scout knowledge and feel for getting to know these players, because one thing analytics can't measure is the heart.
Yep.
It cannot measure. There's no number you can put on that. And the only way to get to know the heart and the drive that the player actually has is going out and watch that player. You talked about Volpe. He's another one. Like coming up, he was on that same Team USA with Riley Green and CJ Abrams and Wandy Morales. I mean, it was one of the best USA teams you've seen, and he was kind of overshadowed ability-wise. But when you watch how he played the game, grinded his bats out, competed, like those intangibles, he's a leader, and you can see how that type of approach to the game and that type of attitude has allowed him to get to where he is now.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, he's up for a Gold Glove. I mean, as a 21-year-old, that's really impressive.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Very impressive. And Boy Dominguez is coming too after that Tommy John, so he'll be there. He'll be there. So very cool.
Chip, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about what's going on in the postseason here. I'm sure you've been watching and had some thoughts. It's been good so far. There's been some surprises. Dan and I, each week, we've been doing our picks and our predictions. We've been right on some. We've been wrong on some others. What do you make of what's going on so far? Who do you got tonight? One of the benefits of doing the show, in the evening is we've had the privilege of watching some baseball live as we're doing the show. So there's a game going on now. Who you got?
Yeah. I'm a former Phillies guy. And I like this. Obviously, like everybody else as a fan, you like this time of season, and having these games go to Game 7 just only makes it even better. And then seeing the younger guys, you talked about the Diamondbacks, you talked about Volpe, like watching a guy like Corbin Carroll. I mean, he was on that ridiculous. He was on that same USA team with all those other guys. So you get to see guys like that come up and have impact, not just be good players, but impact at this time of year. It's awfully fun to watch. So it's going to be a good series no matter who ends up winning the day.
Yeah, they got my Yankee boy Rob Thompson as a coach, so we gotta love him.
Yeah, for sure.
And Kevin Long too, the hitting coach. We gotta love him. So we got some Yankees, and Corbin Carroll, 25-25, the first rookie to do that. I want to say in 40 years or so. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, I know my stuff a little bit.
Yes, you got it.
Yes, sir. I got one more question. I guess who's the best scout that you ever saw or who you scouted? I mean, if I don't know, that's probably a broad question, or if you want to put in that top five, or
it's hard, because you never really know how good somebody is as a scout until you actually get a chance to work with them and sit down and talk about players and read their reports. But for me, I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of good ones. Tim Wilkin is one that jumps out for me right off top of my head here.
Yep.
He's in Florida. He's a scouting legend, not currently in the game, but has done so much for the game. He built the Blue Jays when the Blue Jays were great back in the day, and seen a lot of baseball, doesn't forget anything. So for me, he's number one. And, I've been fortunate enough to be around another one, Danny Montgomery, who's scouted quite a bit. He's with the Rockies right now, vice president of scouting. It's just when you bounce around the different teams and you get to meet these GMs that have actually scouted and have worked their way up the front office to general managers, it's you learn a lot. I mean, I've done it with AJ Preller in San Diego and Marty Wolliver in Philadelphia. I mean, I just been fortunate to be around a lot of great scouts and, more importantly, a lot of great people. So
that's what it's all about. At the end of the day,
I live by. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
I live by. It's easy to be nice, and that's what I do. So it's easy to be nice. It's hard to be mean. So I live by. It's easy to be nice, and that's how me and Greg are. We just live it up, have fun, and we're just talking about sports. And like I said, we appreciate it, and it's just been a lot of fun. The knowledge that we're gaining.
It has.
Very much so.
Chip, but before we let you go, I wanted to ask a little bit. You're the CEO and founder of Pro Youth Foundation. What can you tell us about the foundation you started? What's the goal, the mission that you guys are doing? And for people out there, how can we get involved? And what's the program about?
Yeah, Pro Youth Foundation, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we touched on, the lack of minorities in the game of baseball. And that's something that is near and dear to me. So myself and Malik Fowler, who also lives in St. Pete here, we started Pro Youth Foundation. And it's been really beneficial for a lot of kids over the last few years. We've been officially Pro Youth Foundation for the last 6 years. But prior to that, we've always been doing camps and putting teams together and taking them so schools can look at different kids. But we had this past year, we've had 2 teams in Florida. We had a PYF Rays Florida team and then a PYF Tampa team and also a PYF 12U, which is moving up to 13U now, Rays team. And when I say Rays, that's part of our success is we've been doing this work for the last few years. The Rays took notice and wanted to help us out. So we've been very fortunate to have them jump on board and support us. Obviously, these kids grow up being huge Rays fans. So to be able to go out there and put on a Rays jersey and, represent yourself as well as the Rays, it's been a big thrill for these kids. I mean, we've been to the Rays games. They come out, the scouts come out, they talk to us. We take them to the minor league games, just give them experiences they wouldn't have. And the big part of it is that we eliminate that big monetary fee that a lot of these other travel ball teams are paying and charging these kids. We're playing in all the big events. They're getting exposure. This year going into the season, we only had 2 kids committed to D1 schools. By the end of the summer, every one of our players has a college offer.
That's awesome.
So that's the end of the day. That's what it's all about for us. Try to get these kids into college. And then if they have the ability to move on to that next level of pro ball, then it's a bonus. But
so
Pro
awesome.
Youth Foundation, the pro stands for providing resources and opportunities.
Amazing.
Very, very
amazing. Cool. That's great that you've got the support of teams like the Rays and others behind you. I think that's amazing that you're championing that effort and we want to do the same. We wish you the best of luck with that. And certainly your journey with the Tigers now. I know this has probably been an unusual start time for you in the evenings.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, we really appreciate you spending time with us and letting us grill you. It's been educational for us and certainly entertaining. So thanks so much for joining us. We would love to have you back again on the show another time. Maybe when MLB kicks back up again in the spring, we could talk about how it's going for you with the Tigers and who you've been scouting. So
maybe we meet you in Lakeland for a game. That'd be fun. We can meet you in Lakeland for a spring training game. Yeah.
Feel free to reach out anytime, you guys. I enjoyed it, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Lawrence. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
All
Chip.
right.
Yep,
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
Chip Lawrence, if you need
Chip
him.
Lawrence. Holy moly.
How about that?
What a monster. Amazing
How about
stuff.
that? Fantastic. I mean, so much insight there. Just blows my mind getting to talk to somebody that's in the game right now and has been in the game for 20 plus years. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Just so much content. I hope the listeners out there appreciate that. Definitely great to step into his world and his brain and see what the experience is like for him. But we got a bunch more content to talk about. We'll get back to football shortly. We can talk some NHL and some NBA. And of course, we've got our beer reviews on tap as well. So we'll take a short time out and we'll be back in a few.
Bust my line, a couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off, politicians lie, been fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar and long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. She was a Carolina.
Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart either. How about you,
Yeah,
Dan?
that song's a lot better than the last one. I'll tell you what, man.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Hey, ask and ye shall receive.
Yes, sir. You wanted country, and I gave you the only country song I like.
Yep. So, now
Now it's going to be the second best part of the show after Chip. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah. Chip raised the bar. In case you missed it, we were just joined by Chip Lawrence, professional MLB scout with the Detroit Tigers, and man, that was amazing. But we'll switch gears.
That was breathtaking.
It was. Second best segment now are our weekly beer reviews. I think you went first last week, so I'll go first this week. And
yes, sir.
I just want to say that I'm stoked about this one, and I did this one for you, Dan.
I'm stoked about this one too, so I'm stoked. Let's hear it.
All right.
Let's see if this is fifth time's a charm with you're pouring a beer, so we'll see how good you did there, buddy boy.
No, that's not fair. Come on. Last week was good. Was good. Right?
It was better.
No?
You were like 85%. We need to get you a hundo.
All right. Well, tell me what you think about this bad boy. Can you see this?
No, what is it? Read it off.
It's
like an Irish beer.
It's an Irish beer. It's got
man.
the can is the flag. When I saw this
save that.
thing I
like
thought
this.
it could
Yeah.
be a present to you, birthday gift or something next year. But
Yeah.
yep, it's a Ringside beer, and it's an Irish style red ale. The
Yummy.
description is classic style red ale, exceptionally drinkable with a rich malty note and lightly hopped, 5.4%. And it's brewed and canned by Ringside Brewing Company in Orlando. That's another
What?
thing that's proud of me. Yeah. So shout out to our boy Jordan Lida.
He'll
Maybe
be
he's
bringing
heard
us
of
there.
them.
Yeah, he'll be
Maybe,
bringing
yeah,
us there.
He's gonna have to bring us. We're
Yep.
gonna have to do these taste testings live and in person at some point.
Yeah, we
Maybe
ain't
on
scared.
site at a brewery.
Yeah, we ain't scared.
Yeah, we are not scared at all. So Ringside beer, it's got the Irish flag on the can. I'm a pretty big Killian's guy, so I'm excited to try this one. And
Yeah, Killian's Irish Red is delicious.
Exactly. So there's your favorite sound.
All right, let's see. Here we go. Okay.
Ready? I'm gonna go for the slow pour.
Okay. Look at you. All right. You just got to do a little shit talking, and that's what happens. I like it.
Yeah, Look at that color.
Yeah, that's a beautiful color. This is going to be a delicious beer. Before you take a sip, I'm going to say it's probably going to taste very similar to Killian's Irish Red. That's what I'm going to go with. It's probably going to be very hoppy and very malty and very barley. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
I don't disagree, but I do like Killian's, and
yeah.
I have a feeling I'm gonna like this one. So bottoms up.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
Yeah, what kind of notes we got?
You can taste the malt. You definitely can.
That's what I figured.
It's crisp. It's very comparable to a Killian's. It's malty. It's not too hoppy. I'm trying to think the way they described it. They said exceptionally drinkable with a rich malt note, lightly hopped. I would agree with their description 100%. The hops are minimal, which is usually the type of beers I prefer.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds good. I want to have it.
It's what you'd expect when you read the description after you pour it, when you see the color.
Yep.
It's exactly the way it looks, and it's good. I was thinking about this as I was looking at picking out beers. We're doing this. This is the 5th time now. The first one is the only one I didn't care for. The last 4, I think I went 4 for 4, especially that double IPA a couple weeks back. I thought I was honestly not going to like it, but this is great.
Yep.
Rating wise, I'm going to go 8-1.
Nice.
8-1 for this. Yep.
It's really
right
funny
in the
that
middle. Yep.
That real funny that first week was Italian, and you usually push towards Italian, not Irish. So we're getting you back on the good side. Irish beer. I like it.
They know how to make it. Yep.
Hey, we know how to do a lot of things.
Ringside beer, and that was Ringside Brewing Company in Orlando. If you need them,
I'll have to look that up. All right, so this one is going to be awesome with our live guest that we have, my friend Christian James. He lives in Memphis, so if you guys can see this, it's a Wise Acre from Memphis, Tennessee. It's called an Oktoberfest, and it's a Marzahn lager, so it's going to be dark and it's going to have a very strong flavor, but it's going to be delicious. So I'm pumped for this one. Last time I was in Memphis was in April, and we had a little birthday party for Christian who's watching, and we got a keg of their Tiny Bomb, very delicious beer, very drinkable. So I've been to this brewery in Memphis, and it's a really cool brewery. I don't know if you could see that logo, but it's it's kind of like a peanut, not a peanut, but a nut that you would find on for a squirrel. So we're gonna open that bad boy up, and then this is how you pour like a man, right here, my man.
good pour.
Oh, I know it's a good pour. Let me show my eyes closed, bro. Look at that. Perfect amount of head. Same kind of color as yours, if I got to say. It's going to have that dark color.
It does look close.
It's got a very delicious smell to it. You can smell the barley. You can smell the hops. So we're going to give it a little sip. Wow. That is delicious. That is good stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's definitely tastes like a Marzen. You know what a Marzen lager tastes like?
I don't know that I've had many of those. It sounds familiar vaguely, but it's not something I order.
So it's kind of a darker beer, as you can tell with the color, but it's a lager, so it's a darker lager. It's a German lager, and it's very drinkable. It's got good drinkability, but it's got a really good flavor. And you can taste that Tiny Bomb a little bit in there, because I believe the Tiny Bomb is one of their flagship beers. So they probably use that and add some flavoring to it. But I'd give this one an 8.1 as well, just because of the love of the brewery, the love of the brewery, Memphis, Tennessee, the love of the beer that I've had before. And I've had probably about 5 or 6 of their beers. This is number 7, and they don't do anything bad. It's good stuff. So
Awesome.
yeah,
2 8.1s. We're in lockstep today. I like that.
we are, my friend. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Hey, like we always do. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Up to the camera. Bang.
Cheers, brother. Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah, I thought you'd really like this Irish beer. When I saw the
That's one of
flag,
the coolest cans in the world, man.
I had to have it. It was right there.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest cans I've seen in a while.
Yeah. So I'll save it for you.
Oh, you can just buy me a new one when I come.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
All right.
So
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's switch gears. We left off with football, and I think we need to just at least touch on what was happening in the college scene. We know that Notre Dame boys were on the bye, but
Much well needed bye.
see if they can rest up. They've got Pittsburgh this week.
Yes, they do.
Still ranked number 14. We talked about whether you guys are in the mix. As we get towards the back end of the season, it'll be interesting to see some of the conference games, interconference games that take place, where there'll be some juggling. But as we said the last week or two, not too much has changed with the top 4, the top 5. Penn State was 6, and that's the matchup I paid most attention to this past week. We talked about it.
Me too.
The preview last week, I think you were leaning Penn State. I wasn't really too sure. I didn't have a feel for it. I thought it was going to be a close game, and for the most part, the majority of the game, it was close. It looked like Penn State just was having trouble really with the offense and getting to the end zone, and then as it headed to the fourth quarter, Ohio State started to pull away. But it was close for the majority of the game, and Penn State's just held on to that number. No, I'm sorry, Ohio State has held on to that number 3 spot. Penn State drops back a little bit. But like I said, that those top 4, top 5, 6 teams are not budging, and I don't know that we're going to see any movement there until maybe some of the more interconference games take place. Because you look at just what a team like Michigan, for example, continues to do. Like 2 weeks ago, I think they won 49-3 or something, and this week they just pitch a shutout, another 40, 50 points against rival Michigan State. It's just they play these teams. It's clear who's head and shoulders, light years above the other teams, and it's Georgia, it's Michigan, it's Ohio State. They're the teams to beat right now, and they're not moving too much. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good last week. I mean, Florida State, they showed up. That was a great win for them to win at home. They beat Duke. It was a top 10 match or top 25 matchup for them. First one they've had in a while. So they're looking good. Oklahoma, they're number 6. They had some interesting with UCF. So, UCF gave them a good game. But the thing with Penn State, going off your Penn State game, when we watched that, it just looked like they couldn't get the offense started. Whenever they tried to get the offense started, they'd have a bad penalty or just couldn't get the ball going. And I think that's why they lost. And Ohio State, I know we mentioned this last show, Ohio State's really good at home. And I believe what we say was like 4 or 5 years that they haven't won in Ohio State. So going off of that, it's just interesting. But going this week, Notre Dame, as you mentioned, they play Pittsburgh at 3:30. Oregon plays Utah. So those are 2 6-1 teams. So someone's going to lose there, meaning my Irish, when we beat Pittsburgh, we're going to move up some. Also, Georgia plays Florida. They call that the biggest cocktail party. And Georgia's number 1, but Florida's 5-2, and that is a rivalry game. So there's really no what goes on in that, because Florida can play Georgia well, and Georgia can whoop them, or it could be a 3-point game. So There's some good college this weekend. It's just shaping up, like you said, the in-conference games. Michigan's going to be playing Penn State November 4th, and then they also play Ohio State Thanksgiving weekend. So it's really going to be – truth's going to be told to see what really happens in the Big Ten, because Michigan's also got Penn State, and I believe Penn State's at home for that one. So they'll probably have a nice whiteout, and they'll probably get 100+ thousand. So that should be a good matchup. But Ohio State, we should have beaten them. Notre Dame did. I know we had that conversation when that loss was, but they're a good team. It's just I think they could be beaten. They just need Notre Dame had them, and they just need to play full 48 minutes, not a couple quarters against Ohio State, because Ohio State's got a good team, but they can be beaten. Is the gist of my story on that one. And
the Georgia Florida
Florida
game.
State's gonna coast. Sorry.
No, the Georgia Florida game, is that the one that's offsite, or am I thinking of Georgia Florida or Florida State at the end of the year? Don't they play at a neutral field, Georgia and Florida?
No, Georgia Florida's it's in Jacksonville. It's in Jacksonville.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that one's
they play in Jacksonville.
That's what I'm thinking of. I mean, do you give the Gators any shot? I mean, they can't make any noise in that game, right?
I mean, it's 14.5 right now. The only reason why I give them a little bit of noise is because it's a rivalry game. So these kids play against these kids all the time. And I think that they can play them hard. I hate Florida with a passion, but they haven't looked bad this year. They're 5-2, and Georgia has had some good games and had some shit games, like we mentioned. So and like I said, rivalry is good for at least 7 points in my case, because they play every single year. It's a neutral site. The stadium's going to be in half, kind of similar to Oklahoma, Texas a couple weeks ago when they played at the Red Robber Shootout. It's going to be, the stadium's going to be half blue and half red. So it's going to be, it always is a fun atmosphere up there. I've gone a couple years, not to the game, but to like the tailgates, and it's always a live atmosphere. So there's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of hatred. So
interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar, and you're right. I think that Michigan Penn State game, November 11th, it's coming up in just a couple weeks. That's
November 11th. Okay.
Yep. It'll that'll decide a lot. I mean, if Penn State manages to pull out a win, all of a sudden they move back up in the ranks, and Michigan could fall. So that's one of those games I was alluding to earlier. Is got the most potential to affect the standings, the pole positions, because right now it's just been the top four have not moved at all for a couple weeks now. They've pretty much solidified themselves in that spot. So.
Which I think they did.
Yeah.
And, not looking now, Alabama's on a win streak. They may slide into the playoffs because they're going to have that SEC championship game on their end. So if they're going to be playing Georgia, they can upset Georgia in the SEC championship game. So Alabama could squeak in. I don't want to see it, but they could squeak in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can discount a Nick Saban team pretty much ever, right? I mean, sitting at number 9, I think they're definitely in a good spot to do something.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
So we're coming up on time. It's amazing, time flies when you got this much content and interviews that we've talked about and spent time with people. But we got to make sure we get in our NFL picks this week. So I want to make sure we get those in and look at some spreads. We touched on it briefly earlier. I did not have great luck with my lock of the week last week with the Bucs. I really thought they were going to win the game outright. The line was 2.5. And as I mentioned briefly before, I was just really, really disappointed in their effort. It came down to the wire. I didn't really even expect it to be a close game. I thought the Bucs the week before lost to the Lions, but they're a good team. I really thought divisional game that the Bucs were just going to take care of business and mop up Atlanta, and just to lose the way they did in the dying seconds at home. Disappointing, I know, for their fans. If you're a Bucs fan, you're not sleeping well this week. I picked them as my lock, and I didn't cover that one, so I was disappointed. And then your lock of the week was Cleveland, and you were giving 2 points.
Yes.
And we know how that game ended.
And they won by 1.
They won by 1. So
yeah, we won by 1.
It's how cruel the the NFL world can be, and it's just amazing to me the odds makers. I would love to meet an odds maker, somebody who works for the
So would I.
bookies in Vegas, because those guys, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. It's amazing.
Yeah, they do.
What they're doing and how close they can be in some games. I had that game as my upset. I had Indy getting 2 because I actually thought they were going to win at home. They lost, but amazingly, I covered. So I lost the
Yep,
lock, but
exactly.
I got the upset, which was pretty amazing. Your upset was Detroit, and I thought you were good with that one too. They were getting 3 points, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
they weren't in the conversation, which I think was a shocker to all of us. Like I said, that we spent some time talking about that earlier. That game was crazy, and I think I personally wasn't given enough respect to the Ravens. But not a good day for us with our picks. You went 0 for 2, and by the skin of my nose, I managed to go 1 for 1. So I think if you're keeping track at home, I think that gives me the edge just by one game now. I think we were all square and even coming into that week. So I'm up 1, but
Yep.
not by much. And turn the page to look ahead to this week. It doesn't get much easier. There's some tough games on the schedule. There's still a couple teams on bye, but seeing the big teams, the juggernauts, get upset the last couple of weeks, it kind of makes you wonder what game is safe, and what you feel you can cover in terms of the spread, upset and the lock. So have you given it any thought? What are you thinking upset and lock wise?
All right. So I was looking at it right now as you were speaking, and I would say that my upset is going to be the Steelers plus 2.5 at home against Jaguars.
I like it. I
That's my
actually like
upset.
that quite a bit.
Yeah, if you want to write that bad boy down.
I'm writing it down.
My lock right now, this is too easy, but I guess I could take it for a win. The Texans -3 against the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers get the win this week, even though they're home. Texans got a good team.
Yeah. That's the lock.
So
Houston.
I know that's an easy one because they're defeated, but I still don't think they're going to get their win, even though it's only 3 points. That's why I kind of like it, So.
Yep. I like that as well. I made a trade. We're in the same fantasy league together. I made a trade today for CJ Stroud. I think Houston's going places. They've got a lot of work to do, but I don't see them.
I think so too.
To the Panthers.
They are.
How could they? Yeah, I like that pick a lot. So I'm looking through myself. There's some pretty ugly spreads out there. The Dolphins are 9.5 over the Pats. I mean, they're home, but Dolphins just lost to the Eagles. Pats just upset the Bills. I mean, how could you take that 9.5? I don't know how you do that. Same thing. Buffalo given 8.5 to the Bucs. I'm surprised that's not maybe just 7 points with the way the Bills have been playing lately. I don't know that's a game that I would take with the spread. Trying to find, like I said, this is a tough week. I hate going divisional games. I'm looking at Eagles giving less than a touchdown to the Commanders. They played a few weeks back, I think, early on in the season. That was a lot closer of a game than
they went to overtime.
Thought. So, yeah, I can't really touch that game. Part of me likes the Cowboys over the Rams at home as a touchdown, but the Rams.
I like that too. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, there's some games out here. Falcons, Tennessee, Packers, Vikes is a pick 'em. Seattle Browns. It's I don't know. I looking at the schedule a little bit deeper. I think the easy game for me, Chiefs Broncos. Chiefs are given 8. I just have no faith in the Broncos, even with them being home.
Yep, I just traded away Russell, so there you go.
Yeah. There you go. So I'm going to go my lock, Chiefs -8. It's a big spread, but I mean that's got to be double digits. I mean, how do they not beat them by 2 touchdowns or more? So that's my lock. And trying to look at the upset. This is interesting. I mean, you got to try to find some kind of game that is close. I'm going to go
you got to.
right back to the team in orange, the team without a logo. They're getting 3 points. They're on the road, but they've looked pretty good. If you're a Browns fan, you're feeling pretty good right now. I'm going Browns +3 over the Seahawks.
I like that. It's a nice pick.
I was kind of convinced over the last week or two. Yeah. I wasn't really sure what to make of them with Deshaun Watson. Jerome Ford is hurt a little bit now, but their
Green's
defense,
coming.
like you said, their defense is playing lights out. So there you go. We got our locks of the week, our upsets of the week. They're in, and we'll see how we do next week. So we're getting close to time. What else you got? You got something on your mind you want to talk about? We got the playoff baseball game that's live right now. I last checked, it was 1-1. Now it looks like it's 2-1 Phillies. So it's only the end of the fourth, so there's still some time left.
So we can touch baseball. So
do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I think the Phillies are going to win this one tonight, just because they're home. And I'm going to go. What I'm going to call. I'm going to go Phillies over the Rangers 4-2. If you want to make your projection,
4-2.
I think the Phillies are playing a lot better than the Rangers, even though Adonis Garcia. I mean, did you see what he did last night in the whole series? I mean, he's been killing it. But I think that I think the Phillies have a better team all around, just with the pitching and the lineup. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Garcia is interesting. It looks like he's got a bit of an axe to Grind. He was thrown at a couple games ago, and I think it's rightfully so. There's some bad blood there, and it's interesting to see what he's doing. But I picked early on that one of the only picks this postseason so far that I was kind of right about was Phillies over the Braves. I didn't see them going this far. I didn't see them making it all the way to the World Series. But I can't go against them. I do like them, as impressive as it's been watching the Rangers and what they've done. I also like Philly. Again, Mets fan, I'm wearing the shirt. Mr. Met, even in tough times today. It pains me to predict them, but I can't not go with them. Just the bats that they have, they're all seem to be coming together at the right time. The atmosphere in Philly is pretty amazing. Their crowd, their fans are behind them. I'm going to go Phillies in 7. So you got them 4-2. I'm going to say it goes the distance, but they get the job done. And for all we know, if that happens,
you got them in 7. Yep.
I got them in 7. And if that happens, the city of Philadelphia may burn to the ground, and we can only hope so, right? No, I'm just kidding. Who said that? So. But it's going to be a good one. So
they may. And then we got NBA starting.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up,
we got NBA starting tonight. I don't know. And yeah.
What do you got on NBA? Give me a little bit.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff happened. The Bucks, they traded for Damian Lillard, and they just signed Giannis Antetokounmpo to a 3-year extension. So that team's going to be stuck in stone. They won the championship a couple years back. I think the Celtics are primed for a big year. They acquired Kristaps Porzingis, who came up with the Knicks. So that's going to be an interesting Eastern Conference. And the Nuggets, they won last year. They pretty much got their same team intact. They got Nikola Jokic, who's a beast, Jamal Murray, who's a beast. But they're playing LeBron right now, and it's 97-90. And I watched a little bit before we got on. LeBron still looks like a freaking 18-year-old, and he's been in the league 21 years. So LeBron is still LeBron James, and the Warriors are still the Warriors. They still have Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. So it's going to be interesting, but I still like my Knicks. My Knicks they won a playoff series last year for the first time since 2005. So they got a young team. They got some talent, and they might be able to scoot through and maybe make the playoffs again. But the top of the East is going to be tough, man. Like I said, with the Bucks and the Celtics. And I think the West is going to be the Nuggets, Warriors, and Suns. And to touch on the Suns, they picked up Bradley Beal from the Wizards, who's a really good player, to add along with Devin Booker, who's a really good player. So I know you're not big into basketball, but we'll get you into basketball this year, kind of how I got you into college football. But
I will be paying
Yeah.
more attention to it than I ever have before. You better believe it. So, and
Yeah,
I'm going
it's
to come
just-
at you with some strong takes. I'm going to come at you with some stats, some knowledge. You'll be
Yeah, you
impressed.
you could try, but I'll tell you how it is. And we got
Yep.
a really fun rookie coming out, Wembanyama. I'm sure you heard about him for the Spurs. He's supposed to be the next big thing. So I'm very interested to see how he does with the Spurs. They still got Greg Popovich, who's been there for close to 20 years. So
Yep.
you got to figure Wembanyama is going to play well under Popovich. And the Clippers, they still have a pretty good team, but they're getting older. It's going to be an interesting year. They have some young players that came in, Amon Thompson and Akur Thompson. They are two twins that came out of the Elite League. So they didn't want to play in high school, so they played in the Elite League that they called it. And they were like 3 and 4 pick. One went to Portland. So they should be a good team. There's a lot of good young players out there. So I think that some of these teams might have their last leg, and then a lot of these young teams might be coming up, making it happen.
So the teams on the last leg is, I mean, are you thinking somebody like the Warriors, Golden State? You know, they were dominant for a while. Curry, you think they're coming? Their reign is coming to an end.
I think their reign's coming to the end just because, I mean, how much longer can they play that hard? I mean, if you look at Curry's stats, he's a league leader in minutes, and he's also a league leader in shooting threes. So you got to figure that takes a toll on your body. And Klay Thompson, the same too. He had a torn ACL, then he had a torn Achilles back-to-back years. So
hang on. Let me ask you. You really think shooting the threes is something that takes a toll on your body? Because I would think it's the big guys in the paint who are getting the elbows, the shoulders, the elbows in the face that are taking the toll on their body. You think it's a guy shooting beyond the arc is taking the toll on his body?
You shoot 15 threes a game, and then tell me how your thighs and feet feel, and also what happens if you misplace your footing or to break your ankle. You see what I'm saying?
That's fair. I could see a guy maybe shooting threes would wear him down over the course of a season because of how many games they play. But I guess over the career, I would think a guy breaks down his body just taking that punishment when you're just jostling in the paint.
Oh, yeah.
But makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Steve Kerr is still their coach. Steve Kerr is a top echelon coach. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, and then in the last league too, the Clippers, they got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They're getting older. They've been playing together for a while. Either one of them are always missing at least half the season. So there's another old team that's leaving. But up and coming team that I'm going to call this year is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're going to be coming up big. And actually, the Orlando Magic are going to be coming up big. They both got very young talent. They've both been playing very good together. So I think that those are two teams to watch for and two teams to make the playoffs this year. It's a bold call, but I think it's going to happen. Just those two teams, and
I like
it's gonna be a fun year. Like I said, watch out for young dudes, young players, and I'm just looking at the standings real quick from last year. Once it loads up, I mean, not last year, but this year, just to give you some teams. I mean, the Pistons are another team to look out for. They got some good young players, but looking in the Eastern, the tops are going to be the Celtics, the Heat, the Bucks, the 76ers, and the rest of the teams could be a washout, like a throw up. And then in the Western, the Kings surprised a lot of people next year. I think they're going to keep making strides towards having a good year. And like I told you, the Thunder and the Memphis Grizzlies, if John Morant can get his head on straight, he's a talent. I don't know. Do you know anything about John Morant?
A little bit. I know the name.
Yeah, so what happened to him last year is he's one of the top players. He's 24, 25 years old. He went to Murray State, so a very small school, came up, got a huge contract, and decided to hang out with his friends from Murray State when he was poor and not anybody. So he decided to do an Instagram Live at a strip club, and he had a gun. So there was one big no-no. So then they suspended him a couple games. They talked to him, and the commissioner, Adam Silver, said, just don't do it again. And then the smart ass decided to get on Instagram Live again with another gun. And now he's suspended the first, I want to say, 25 games. And I think it's his last straw. But this kid, when you see him play, he's a beast. I mean, he doesn't care about his body. He goes 100 miles per hour down the middle, and if he gets elbowed in the face, he's fine because he just doesn't care. I mean, he's a talent, but
He sounds like
if
a
he can just
guy
get his head
who-
on right, I think Memphis will be coming up
Yeah,
well.
he sounds like a guy who doesn't have it
Yeah.
between the ears. But
He just doesn't know how to handle money. He doesn't know how to get rid of people that are suspect, and that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
yep, yeah,
So-
it often does. That's a big
But yeah,
problem
just
for people.
right before the season starts, like I said, yeah. So if you want to write it down, Oklahoma City Thunder and Orlando Magic are going to make the playoffs. So go ahead and write that bad boy down because
Oklahoma
I know it's going to happen.
and the Magic.
And the Magic.
All right, you heard it
Oh,
here
shoot,
first.
look at this. We got two.
Okay,
We got two livers here, man. 2 people watching with us. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That's what we're all about. That is absolutely what we're all about. I'm glad we're
And
getting
then you want to see
people.
something really cool too? Look at the comments. My boy Christian James, he's not a big NFL guy, but he said he watched the second half of the Colts game. So just because of this show, he's going to start watching sports, which is really, really cool. So
Love it.
we appreciate that.
That's what we want. Yeah, we're trying to get people involved. I mean, listen to us, and then they get more involved in different sports. Hopefully they pick up a thing or two by listening to us, and then it becomes part of their weekend ritual. So that's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, we
Keep,
appreciate it. You
Keep the comments rolling. Keep the comments rolling.
with your limited basketball knowledge, you got any thoughts on the year this year? Or you want to let it get into it, and then we'll start popping.
Well,
Not to call you out.
So I think I was going to hop back on the Philly train. Just, I tune in and I see what's going on. And I think the Sixers are going to be in the mix. They seem like they have a pretty deep team. I don't got a team yet that I think I could pick maybe for the finals or a dark horse in the playoffs. I'm going to do some research and some serious thinking and soul searching, and I'll come back next week on our next show and have those for you. I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, random question, because you mentioned LeBron looking like he's still 18, physical specimen. The guy's in great shape. You hear these rumblings about him wanting to play with his son. What is it, Bronny?
Yep.
I think, was it Bronny who had the scare a couple weeks back or months? He had some heart attack or something. Was it?
Yeah,
was
he
it
had a
him
heart
or-
disease. Yeah, heart condition.
Yeah. I haven't followed what's going on with him. Hopefully he's okay. I don't know if he's still playing, but if he is, do you think there's any way that LeBron continues to play and actually plays with his son? Because I know he's said in jest that was one of his goals, but it's hard to tell if he's actually serious about it or if he's just saying that for some comments and some fun.
So LeBron James, I'm going to put him similar to Bill Belichick, and what I mean by that is LeBron James can pretty much do whatever he wants. As I said with Bill Belichick a couple episodes ago, Bill Belichick's not going to get fired. Bill Belichick's going to walk away when he wants, and this is LeBron James. He's going to play as long as he wants. So with that being said, he's going to want to play with Bronny James, and I don't know if you know his background, but he spends about $1 million to $2 million on his body every offseason, and he stays in tip-top shape. So
Man.
he can play as long as he wants. And just watching him a little bit tonight, he looks like an 18-year-old. He's going 30 miles per hour. It almost looks like running from court to court. So
All it takes to have washboard abs and cannonball shoulders is $2 million, huh?
yeah, and he eats really well too. But he's got a really cool regimen, and he's got a really cool what he does with his athletic training. I know he's big into chyrotherapy. I'm sure you've heard of that. Where you freeze the muscles and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
Sit in the cryo
he's
chamber,
big
yep.
he's big in all that, and not to describe him to Bill Belichick because they're two different people, but I just think they both write their own tickets. And so whenever Bronny comes out, it's either going to be next year or the year after. Being that Bronny had that heart disease, I would say he's going to probably play 2 years at USC. So that means give Bronny 2 more years. He's got to play at least 3 more years because he'll play 2 in college, and then the third year will be his rookie. But what's going to happen is he'll be like not a 35-minute guy. He'll probably be a 25-minute guy and just play with Bronny just to play with Bronny. And then I see him retire. But that's my ultimate opinion. And I mean, who knows if I'm right, but we'll see. Time will tell. But he's aged like a fine wine, as they say on the announcers. I mean, he's a beast amongst men and still is a beast amongst men.
Must be nice. I'm jealous.
It must be nice. I know well, he gets paid about $70 million a year with endorsements and everything. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep. So we're getting up against time. We had an awesome show today, and before we wrap up, anybody that's listening live, if you're catching the MLB game, we talked about it. It was 2-1 Phillies, and if you missed it, it's actually 3-1 D-backs now in the 5th inning. The Phillies look like they have the heart of the lineup coming up. Turner, Harper, and Schwarber, so they potential to do some damage there. But we got a good game, so make sure you stay locked into that game and stay locked into us. We mentioned it ad nauseum now, but Facebook, Twitter, email, info@overtimesportshow.com. Send us messages, send us emails, tag us, add us everywhere. Let us know what you're thinking. Interact with us. We want to keep this thing going. We appreciate people that joined today. Certainly appreciate Chip Lawrence who joined us on the show. Awesome running him down, and we're going to be bringing on more and more guests in the future. So we're going to keep the content going. You got any final thoughts before we sign off, Dan?
That's it. Couldn't say it better yourself. If Mr. Lawrence watches the rest of the show, we highly, highly appreciate it. You went above and beyond. We weren't expecting much, but we expected what we got, and we appreciate it. So, meaning just Greg mentioned your name, and I was like, okay, we're going to just talk about baseball, but you gave us a lot of insight. So very, very cool, very, very appreciative. And hopefully we can meet up soon at a Lakeland Detroit Tigers game for spring training. That'd be a blast. So we appreciate
we got to
it.
make that happen. We
appreciate it.
He's a class act, and we want to run him down again. But that's another one in the books, man. Episode 5, fantastic show as always. Dan, appreciate you. We're gonna run it back and see everybody in a week. Peace.
We appreciate you.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Come on. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show.